Okay, let's consider operations over human beings. Fairly recent rule change. It's Part 107, Subpart D. First paragraph reads is paragraph 100, applicability, and it says this. This subpart prescribes the eligibility and operating requirements for small unmanned aircraft to operate over human beings or over moving vehicles in the United States. Pretty clear? The next paragraph, 105, limitations. And here they list 4 categories of aircraft that may conduct operations over people. Okay? This rule went through a process. Well, all of the FAA rules, most all of the rules as far as I know, go through a process where users get a chance to put their input. So they propose a rule, then there's a period of time where people can write their comments and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not reasonable. I mean, manufacturers got involved in this. They want to be able to produce the airplanes. Is it impossible, or is it going to cost so much money that people won't be able to afford the drones? Remember that the FAA is concerned about, one, safety. I mean, that's their charter. Safety, the main thing. Secondary, but still important, is commerce. That it means you need to be able to make money with drones, with aircraft in general. And drone is another aircraft. So they have to listen to those kind of things. So they listen to them, but they still, safety obviously is, the main issue. So all of these things are involved, the safety of the drones. How do you know when these processes come about? Unless you're a legal nerd and constantly following, it's difficult. But probably the best way to do it is to join some kind of an advocacy group. AUVSI is one. AOPA, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, is another one. Although they also they have a very powerful lobby organization for manned aviation as well as unmanned. So those two, if you're members of those, then they tend to give you updates about stuff like that. This is an upcoming rule. We need you to make comments on this. Okay, anyway, it's gone through that whole process. It's now law now. This is the way it is. We'll start out with Category 1. That's the one we're probably most familiar with and one we'll probably be dealing with. Right, 107, 110, Category 1 operations. To conduct Category 1 operations, A, remote pilot command must use a small unmanned aircraft that, and this is the stipulations here, must weigh 0.55 pounds or less on takeoff and throughout the duration of each operation under Category 1, including everything that is on board or otherwise attached to the aircraft. Okay. Also, does not contain any exposed rotating part that would lacerate human skin upon impact with a human being. Okay, so, and of course there are drones out there that are way less than 0.55 pounds, granted. But the typical one we think about is this one here, Mavic Minis. Says right on there, somewhere, less than, here it is, 249 grams. Okay, so that's less than 0.55 pounds. But it's got propeller blades. Do these propeller, now the question you have, and the FAA is leaving this open to you to interpretation, will that create lacerations to the human skin? If so, if you determine and are able to demonstrate to the FAA that does not do that, then cool, you're all set as far as rotating parts. If not, and you put propeller guards on it, now it weighs more than 0.55 pounds. So keep that in consideration. But that's only half the deal. Look at the regulations. B says no remote pilot command may operate small unmanned aircraft in sustained flight over open air assemblies or human beings unless the operation meets the requirements of either 89.110 or 89.115A of this chapter. Those are the remote ID stipulations that we talked about in the previous or another video. So watch that video. I don't want to get all into that with this video. Let's keep this short. So does any of our drones have remote ID? No. So we're not allowed to, apparently, we're not Category 1, no matter what drone you have, as far as I know. Now, there may be drones out there that are less than 0.55 pounds, do not have rotating exposed parts, and have remote ID. That's possible. I'm just saying, just make sure it does have those things if you want to be Category 1. Okay. Category 2. Category 2 and 3, we'll start with Category 2. It still has the same rotating part issue that has to be complied with, but they've added basically some things about the performance of the aircraft. Aircraft cannot cause an injury equivalent to or greater than an injury resulting from the kinetic energy impact of 11 foot-pounds. Okay, so this is an actual scientific measurement. Okay, so what are you thinking? Thinking the same as me? This is what the manufacturer is going to have to do. Not only, so they have to test the aircraft, then they have to approve it, submit the application, some kind of a means of compliance to the FAA to be able to obtain a declaration of compliance. In other words, there's going to be a document that says, oh, this aircraft does not have parts that lacerate human skin, and it does not cause more damage than 11 foot-pounds from a rigid object. Okay. And of course, they have to have remote ID as well. So this is the performance-based criteria for becoming Category 2. I believe there is a section there that mentions that you could, a home-built guy could figure this out, guy or gal could figure this out. But at any rate, direct declaration of compliance needs to be attached to the registration, and it must be labeled as such. That's Category 2. Category 3. And that, again, is the flexibility the FAA has given to manufacturers, especially because they're the ones that are going to make the aircraft comply with these things, like the spinning parts and impact characteristics, right? And you know, there's ways to fix these propeller blades so they don't cause laceration. They could be little rubber ones that just, instead of cutting your face when it hits you, it could slap your face, okay, right? It wouldn't cut it. I mean, there's possibilities. Or, and you've seen them before, the drones that have the ducts around it, which covers the blades. So there's ways to do that. Or you can have a rocket-powered drone that doesn't have propeller blades at all. Use your imagination. So this is left up to the manufacturer to come up with these categories. Okay, so now we have Category 3. Here it is. I have the paperwork here. So we'll slide down to Category 3. Very similar, except aircraft cannot cause an injury equivalent to or greater than an injury resulting from an impact kinetic energy of 25 foot-pounds from a rigid object. Okay, so this is could cause more damage, so you can sort of expect there'd be some extra little item in here. Yeah, there is, but you have to have remote ID. But the restriction, because of of a greater damage, possibility of damage, is that they can only fly in closed or restricted sites. And we're going to talk about that in a bit, but that's something to keep in mind. Still, Category 3, manufacturers are going to come up with these drones, have to prove it to the FAA, have to come up with a declaration of compliance, a DOC is what it's called, a DOC, declaration of compliance, to demonstrate to that particular UAV will meet these requirements. Okay. Oh, Category 4. I got Category 4 here somewhere. That's all right. Category 4 is, here it is. Category 4. This goes into the classification of requiring an airworthiness certificate to fly over people. Okay, manned aircraft have airworthiness certificates. Why? Because they're flying over us all the time. Look up there right now. Just look up in the sky. Well, that's the ceiling, but over there where the sky is, you see airplanes flying over you all the time. They don't restrict them. Why? Because there's some kind of redundancy that if the engine or some failure, it's not going to fall straight down and hit you on the top of hit somebody on the top of the head. They have either, for the airlines especially, have two engines, and the airplane should be able to fly on one engine. So if they lose one power plant, they can still fly. There are single-engine airplanes, yeah, but they have wings and they can glide to an area where it's safe to crash. You know, pilots are taught that. You know, don't crash into the middle of the shopping mall during Black Friday. I mean, that's sort of a no-brainer. Helicopters have the ability to glide too. I don't know if you realize that, but do your own research on that. But helicopters can glide as well if they lose their power. So they come up with some kind of redundancy, and everything else is redundant as well. So, and along with for Category 4 operations or any aircraft that has an airworthiness certificate, has some kind of specifications for maintenance and inspection requirements. So there's a lot more details. All the stuff that we don't have right now in the drone industry that will be required for Category 4 operations, and they'll be able to fly over people. Of course, they also need remote ID to operate over, but there's pretty much no restrictions for them. Okay. Back to the very beginning again. Under applicability, it said over human beings or over moving vehicles. So what's the deal with moving vehicles? All right. Moving vehicles, operation over moving vehicles. Category 1, 2, and 3 must meet one of the following conditions in order to fly over moving vehicles. The first is it can be a movie set where it's closed. It's closed, restricted access site. People aren't coming and going. They don't know what's going on. Everybody there at the movie set knows what's going on. They're filming a movie, Fast and Furious, right? Well, just about every movie you've seen has got drone footage. So the drone is flying over the top of the race cars. They're tearing down the road, and that's allowed. Everybody knows the risk. And there is some risk. Right? If you're driving your motorcycle at 100 miles an hour and the drone falls down and hits you in the face, there's risk. That's dangerous. That's a risk. So, okay, Category 1, 2, 3 can fly over vehicles within a closed access site, or if the operation is not within or over a closed or restricted site, the small unmanned aircraft must not maintain sustained flight over any moving vehicle. So if it's an open site, for example, you want to go down to the BMX track here and you see on a race day and you want to do a follow me thing, and the guys in the motorcycles doing the jumps and all that in the dirt, yeah, really pretty dramatic footage, and you probably make a lot of money from the parents of the kid that's out there racing, or even the kid might have some money to pay you to take videos of him jumping over the that anybody can be there. They may or may not, some of the participants in this activity may or may not know that what you're doing, so you can't hover over the top of the motorcycle as you video. Now you can get off to the side, you can do a lot of things where you're not over anybody, any vehicle. Especially, remember, we're talking about vehicles, so you're not over any vehicle, then that'd be okay to do that. But not sustained flight. Sustained, you know what sustained means, right? It means you stay over the top of it, right? You still, theoretically, as I understand the rule, you can pass over them going somewhere, but you can't stay over them. Again, for the same reason, if you, somebody ride a motorcycle and the drone falls down and hits them in the face, it's probably going to cause a major accident, and that's a problem. That's a problem for the FAA. Makes sense. By the way, Category 4 can do that. Why? Even over a unrestricted site, because they've got the backup redundancy where it's not going to fall right down and hit the guy in the face. So again, I've said this before in other videos, don't rely on social media or your buddies to explain the regulations to you. It's in plain language right there, accessible. Just go to the site. When you're getting ready to do an operation and you don't remember, just go to the site. And it's a good idea to check every once in a while as well, because rules do change. Might make it more strict, or might make it more, give us more freedom in this, but most likely the rule's gonna get more strict. But anyway, keep track of it. The regulations are your textbook there. After you graduate, you need to be keeping up with the regulations. Reviewing them, reminding yourselves, and not just relying on your buddies to tell you what's going on. what the new regulations are. Okay? Well, that's it for operations over human beings.